Let's fire away.
Let's do it.
So we got some numbers.
All right.
We always do. That's how I always start this. Then I
Like it.
talk about how you like numbers.
I do like numbers.
All right. So we got July 2022 and 2021 printed out.
Okay.
So
I'm
we'll do.
spreading it out so I can actually read it.
There you go. And Carl joining us here today. He might have a bit of wisdom to throw out there. Never know.
I'll try.
Or he might have something from the perspective of buyer.
Yeah.
He did buy a house. What, like
January
6 months ago? Yeah.
January 6th.
Oh,
9th.
don't say January 6th. We'll get shut down from
That's
the
my daughter's
YouTube
birthday.
algorithms.
Oh, yeah.
January 6th, bad date.
What happened on that day?
Oh, Lord. We'll get back to that. Moving on.
Over my head. Let's
Congratulations. I didn't know you bought a house.
Yeah, January 9th.
It's impossible for me, being the guy that runs this team, to not know you bought a house.
No,
Right before I came on.
Yeah, I think you were looking with your agent, like as we were kind of meeting up. For the
As
first
we were
time.
flirting with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he kept it under wraps, thinking we were going to be mad at him.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh, I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, oh God, there's this literally agent with Coldwater Banker, and I was just like, I don't want to. I didn't know you guys that well, and I didn't know how it was going to be like.
We're going to have to restart this podcast.
Yeah,
It's all right. Okay, now let's talk about July last year and this year. Compare the numbers.
All right, let's do it.
Carl, thanks for joining us.
glad to be here.
Maybe you'll have something to say.
Okay.
So let's, first things first, I will say the most surprising thing to me, we have pretty much almost caught up to the amount of closings where we were last year.
Mm-hmm.
We're only 3 behind. So comparing July 21 to this past July, we were looking at 108 closings this year, 111 last. So like I said, that's only 3 behind. Pretty surprising to me.
A unit count of 3 being the difference could be the difference in a weekend, like, a Sunday.
A rainy day.
Yeah, a rainy day, a cold day, whatever, hot day. So it's virtually the same.
And like you had pointed out too, we got the July 2017 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We're still way ahead of that. Or not way ahead, but they're 104 that year. So like I said before we got started, it feels like if you just kind of listen to the people around you, even agents too, some of them, they kind of like instill this feeling that it's just like everything's falling apart or whatever.
Yeah.
But that is clearly not what's going on here.
Yeah, people have what they call recency bias. So last year the market was crazy hot. This year it feels more normal, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're in a buyer's market. Yeah, we're not selling 200 homes in a month. And so when you look at the data, if 2017 was 104, if you didn't have 2020 and 2021 to think about, and you look back at the 2017 numbers, it's like, oh yeah, 2017 was a pretty good year. Yeah, I saw a meme yesterday that said the inflation was 8.5%, and everybody was happy. The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, came to 8.5%. So in March, we also got 8.5%, and the world was freaking out in March because inflation was so high. Then it went to 9.1 in June, and then July it's 8.5 again, and everybody's happy.
That's what I saw that. Yeah,
it's like, well, in July of 2017, we sold 104 houses. July 2022, we sold 108. We should be thrilled. Instead, everybody's going, "Oh my gosh, the market's just so slow." Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually not. It's really good right now.
And so let's take this moment now to look at what most people seem to be interested in. I think the median sales price last year versus this one.
Yeah, let's see it.
So we got July 2021. What's that median sales price? We're at 200,000.
200 even. How about that?
And then now we are at, what does that say?
216.5.
I need some new glasses. Jeez. Yeah, 216.5. That is slightly down from the last time we looked at this, but I don't think that.
So yeah, 8% increase year over year. That's solid.
That's very
Historical
solid.
average is like around 4. So yeah, 3.5 or 4. So 8% year over year going up. That's good if you bought a house in July of last year.
Sure is. All those people thinking they might be overpaying.
Yeah.
Turns out you didn't.
Yeah. Let's look at the median days on market. It should be a lot slower today, right?
Somewhat slower.
Median days on market, 11 last year, 13 this year. You will sell your house in 2 weeks.
Although I would say that's going to keep ticking up. In my experience, this is July and we're halfway through August now. Kind of seems like things are lingering a little more, seeing more price drops. All those people who are shooting for the stars kind of having to set back into reality. But still, I mean, we're going up, like you said, 8%. So I I know, and I've heard this from people as they're on Zillow looking for houses and they're seeing all these price drops, it kind of instills a little nervousness in them. And so I tell them what I just said, and I think they get it, but maybe you'll still get lucky, shooting for the stars, but it seems like not so much anymore.
I do think it's slowing down, but again, let's look at 2017. The median days on market's 47.
Yeah, we're a long way off from that.
We felt good. Like we just talked about it. We felt good in July of 2017. And then all of a sudden we're up to 13 days now from 11. It's like, man, these homes are sure staying on the market a lot longer.
Yeah.
It's like, well, not really.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
When here at Selling North Georgia, we have a 12-week marketing plan for houses. Right? When was that developed?
2014 was my first iteration of it. 2015, I redid it. And I pretty much did it every year till about that 2017 mark, and it was working really well for us in 2017. Yeah. So we have tweaked it a little since then, but it's still that 2017.
Well, my observation was the amount of houses that make it to week 12. There's just a lot of houses that miss certain parts of the marketing plan because they're just getting sold long before they get, this type of treatment and such. That was developed in what you would say a normal market. And I just wanted to bring that comparison up then.
Yeah, that's, I think I've actually heard you say this at a listing appointment, but I say it to pretty much everyone, which is, when we open up the packet and we're showing that marketing plan, I do point out the average days on market right now is 10, 11, 12, whatever it is at that time. So there's a good chance we're not even going to make it to week whatever, but just so you know, if we happen to, here's how it's going. Should we, revamp that?
I like it the way it is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I would say when you have that seller that you say, hey, this house is worth $235, and they say, great, I want $260, then you can pull out that marketing plan and say, okay, well, here's where we have this price reduction conversation. I'm telling you today, it's likely worth $235. We are not the determining factor in that. The buyer is the one that gets to decide if they're willing to pay $235 or they're willing to pay $260. So my guess is, based on the data, it'll take us 13 days to sell this house at $235. If you want $260, you might actually make it to this whole 90 days. So look here, on day 35, I'm telling you, we're having a conversation on a price reduction. If we make it to almost 3x the median, which would be 39 days, according to July's data, then day 39, we really need to have this price reduction done. Yeah. So on day 35, I'm going to call you. I'm going to say, hey, listen, here's all the data. Every time I have that conversation with them, we have shown it to at least 10,000 people through our various advertising and social media channels. We have documented proof that over 10,000 people have seen your house and have decided not to make an offer on it. So usually prior to day 35, I'm telling them this day 13, day 14. Hey, listen, 6,000 people have seen this. And we do targeted ads. We don't just put it on Facebook on our own personal page and say, hey, world, this is available. Yeah. We actually run ads based on people who've been to Zillow, based on people who've been to Realtor.com, based on people who have certain disposable income. So we are targeting people who are likely to be looking for houses. And when we have that conversation and we show them this many people have seen your house, okay, that's a way better conversation of you need to drop your price than, I don't know, I guess we just need to drop it because it hasn't sold. I can't tell you why.
Yeah. Right? It gives the why to that.
Yeah, it's now trackable, measurable, and it's predetermined. On day 35, we're reducing the price. You agree with this plan right here, right? So that's helpful. And, sometimes we miss. Sometimes we think it's worth $235 and somebody pays $250.
Yeah.
It happens.
Absolutely. As like we've been doing, I kind of broke these down percentage, like what type of financing or cash was used to buy these houses. Looking at these numbers, they didn't really shift too much year to year. We got more conventional buyers, which not a surprise. I feel like we say this every time, but FHA has just been harder to get lately.
Yes.
However, I do want to bring this up. Also, shout out to the USDA guys who tried to buy something July 2022. Nobody could pull it together.
Not a single one.
Not a single one, which is the hardest thing to get accepted right now, I think. But what I was going to say, I actually got one right now. And I was telling the buyers this morning as we were wrapping up due diligence and moving forward. So I was telling them, I'm pretty sure this is the first time in like 2 years that I've had someone, USDA, get a full closing credit. They're going to
Nice.
get this house zero out of pocket.
Nice.
And that has not happened in so long
That
to me.
That goes against everything that I see on social media. I see so many of these posts that are like, "Oh, you don't think you can afford a house? Did you know USDA is 0% down?"
Right.
But what you're telling me is it's just very difficult to actually close a deal on a loan.
So the past year or two,
Mhm.
yes, for sure, because it's always been multiple offer situations, almost
Mhm.
always. And in those multiple offers, there's usually something better than USDA.
Mm-hmm.
A buyer who's conventional, who's got cash on hand, who can pay the difference in an appraisal or whatever. But I think now, as things are shifting, I haven't dealt with many multiple offer situations in the past month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you present an offer and it's just the one, right, it's a lot easier to get that accepted. Now, in my specific example, they did accept one over us. I think we were competing against one other person, but they fell apart for other reasons. So we got in there, got it.
I'll tell you another thing that is interesting about USDA, and obviously you need to talk to your mortgage lender if you want the details, but just in our experience, USDA is specific to an area, so you have to want a house that is in the eligibility map. So it's got to be outside the city center of Dalton. It's got to be in a USDA rural eligibility area. So that's the first thing. The other thing is there are limitations on how much cash you can make, like how much income you have in a year. And so there's been quite a bit of wage increase over the last couple of years. And so there's just less people qualifying for the USDA income limit. So that's part of it. The other thing is because we have had so much helicopter money over the last couple of years and getting paid to stay home and all those kinds of things, people making money in crypto, whatever, people just have more cash than they used to. You know, there's all kinds of financial reports out there that talk about how much more cash people have than they did before the whole pandemic thing. So if you have cash, then go get a conventional loan. It's cheaper. It's a better loan for you to get. If you just don't have any money, then USDA is a good option. It's helpful. But if you have cash, you should probably go to FHA. If you have enough cash, you should go conventional because that is the best, lowest cost, I guess, the best financial product that there is when it comes to 30-year fixed rate financing.
And speaking of FHA, so that's the next one on the list I wanted to talk about. So this past July, 26% of those closings were FHA compared to 33% last year. And again, I think we're transitioning to a market to where, those USDA FHA people can have a better shot. And I also think it's interesting, you and I have the listing where our first offer was, pretty sure it was FHA.
It was.
And a significant closing credit. It was huge. And I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah. And
like people actually thinking they have a shot making that offer. Like it was to the point where almost like agents would just tell you not even to make the offer if you needed that much closing.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing is the seller didn't take it.
That is interesting. But if I remember, didn't take it, going to wait for the better conventional that people have been doing in the past. And it didn't quite come as fast as they thought it might.
Yeah. We did get
but we got it. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a better offer, but it did take a minute and there was a little bit of heartburn there.
Yeah,
like, ooh, did we make a bad decision?
It did feel for a day or two like we made the wrong move.
Yeah, no doubt.
Alrighty, moving on. Let's see. What you got any thoughts on the cash closings are the same, really. 22%, 27%.
Yeah, it's dropping a little. I would expect that to drop a little. There is a situation brewing where people are just spending more on those inflationary products that we talked about. So gas, groceries, those kinds of things. So there's just less cash available. Interest rates ticked down a little bit in July over June. So with a lower interest rate, you might hold on to your cash a little longer. The higher that interest rate goes, the less likely people are going to want to finance more. They're going to try to put more cash down. The cost of money matters to people. So if that cost of money is higher, they're not going to want it as much.
Exactly.
That rate goes down to 3%, then let's just finance all of it so that we can hold on to our cash.
Right. Rates did come down a little. I saw a headline, though, saying rates were expected to drop significantly towards the end of this year, which goes counter to anything else that I've heard or read.
Really. When you saw that, was it the Fed funds rate or was it the mortgage rates?
Mortgage rates.
Okay. Interesting. Did they say why?
Again, I just
would love to know why they said it would.
but I'll find
mortgage
it and
rates are
send it to
almost
you.
impossible to predict. It's really difficult.
Yeah,
They're tied to the 10-year Treasury, and a lot of times those move symbiotically. So I could see a situation where that would happen if there's some geopolitical disaster that happens in the world and everybody flocks to the 10-year Treasury and those yields start coming down on the 10-year Treasury, then mortgage rates will go down. But I don't know. A part of me kind of hopes it doesn't, just because that means something went really wrong in the world today. And so I don't know.
So by geopolitical disaster, I mean,
Yes.
other than the war in Ukraine,
That would be one.
there's a lot of people predicting famine,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of food shortages this fall because of what's going on. Would that possibly have something
That
to
would
do with
absolutely be one of those things, because with famine comes war. So if you're hungry,
Mhm.
you will
Be mentioned.
go do what you need to do to go get food, right?
Yeah.
So you can Google Sri Lanka today and see protests and people going crazy because they're in a famine and they're not doing well. So there's that. That's one thing. Another thing is China and Taiwan are kind of flirting with the idea of not getting along. And so that's a real situation that has been brewing for a long time.
Mhm.
Recently, Pelosi went over there and kind of stirred up the emotions again, but it was happening prior to that trip. At some point, that situation's going to boil over and be a problem. And so the bond market might be looking at that and saying, it's getting closer to that boiling over point, so we need to put more money into the U.S. Treasury, whereas a safe asset. Yeah, that's what the really rich folks think. The 10-year Treasury is the safest asset in the world, so that's where we're going to put our money, which drives the rate down.
Yeah.
So as famine happens, as other wars happen, Iran is not happy with Israel, and so there's always that opportunity that could blow up at any point. So, yeah, the more likely those scenarios come, the lower the 10-year Treasury yield gets, and thus the lower the mortgage rate gets.
We will see what happens.
Yeah,
Lots of uncertainty.
no predictions here.
Well, speaking of predictions, though, so let's we'll wrap up July. It looks like we're up 8% from last year, so that's awesome. The way people are buying these properties hasn't shifted too much, although as time goes on, the folks who do not have a lot of cash on hand, so FHA, USDA, probably their time to get back out there.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you: do you think when we do this for the August numbers
Mm-hmm.
that we are going to? Because remember, we're 3 behind.
Okay.
Closings 108, 111. Think we're going to surpass, match? What's that going to look like, do you think?
I don't think we'll surpass or match. I think the number will be wider in August. I think last August was a really good sales month.
Mhm.
And so this August might be a really good sales month and still make the gap wider.
I'm single-handedly going to close the gap.
Okay, then. Very good.
I'm going to go sell 100 houses in the next 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks. Closing it up.
There you go.
All right, well, that's all I got. You got anything else?
That's it.
Alrighty. Michael, thank you so much for coming to your own office. Carl, thank you for standing there and asking a few questions.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
Cool.
Cheers.